It doesn't look like he's home.
Do you think he's in there?
Maybe he's still at school.
Wait. What's that?
It's just a roll of toilet paper.
With legs?
That's him!
He's trying to get away. Take it little.
Did you actually think the sky was falling?
Did you know it was an acorn?
What does your father think of this? No comment. Look, over there.
Huh?
Where'd he go? There he is!
Chicken Little, your action caused widespread panic, and subsequently you were blamed and humiliated in front of your town, your father, and everyone you know and love.
Was there a question in there?
No. I just wanted to point that out.
One final question. Do you think you'll ever get to live this down?
Yes, I will. Because I believe in second chances. And I will rise again like the mighty phoenix, and soon everyone will forget. It's not like they're making a movie about it, you know? It was a simple mistake. People, please, I'm begging you, let it go. When the gun gets tough. A movie? The book on tape was bad enough.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Disney Reel to Reel, a deep delve into the Disney animated canon. I'm Wyatt, and I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Go on, feed me more.
Oh God, what is it? So tell me what you want. What you really, really want.
I wanna really, really, really wanna talk about something else.
I'm Rayleigh, and I am so excited to talk about this. I went down, I guess you could say a rabbit hole, but maybe a hole in the sky also counts, and I just fell from the sky.
You're like Amy Lee in the Bring Me to Life music video.
For real. But yeah, this. I know you're not excited, but I'm excited.
Not since High School Musical, the concert, Extreme Access Pass, have I not been excited to record an episode.
I mean, at the very least, I think you will find some chuckles in the development of this movie.
All right.
If not from the movie itself, some of the development of this is a little funny.
Yeah. Also, I will go ahead and say for the listeners who follow me on Instagram, at DisReelToReal Podcast, if you're interested, I had sort of pumped it up that I'd be talking about a thematic quality of this movie, meaning the apathetic society represented. But I don't even think I have the energy to get into that. So this is Rayleigh's show. But
it's all me, baby.
Oh my God. But before we get any further, we have to ask our personal Disney question.
Yes.
Today, I think it's especially relevant to ask, has doing research for Disney Reel to Reel impacted your understanding of the Walt Disney Company? And if so, how?
I mean, I already knew a lot of the the kind of cursory information of obviously the time period that this movie was created. There was a lot going on Disney wise. And I knew of it, but it kind of I think it increased the scope for me, if that makes sense. It really hammered home that oh yeah, it wasn't just that there was a lot going on, going on. There was a fuck ton going on.
Mhm.
And it kind of just gave me like a deeper understanding of like why things turned out the way it did.
Do you think that goes for a bunch of other movies that we've already talked about, or?
I definitely think it affects like the way that I like view quite a few things.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to a certain person who will be named later. And it's not Eisner this time, guys.
No, it kind of is, but he
Yeah,
is the man in charge of everything. So
he is. However, there is another person
yes,
who is also very much behind how things ended up going.
yes, indeed. Um. So beginning last year, Disney Reel to Reel started off as this creative hobby that I consistently took very seriously. Yet as the months have gone by, we've had more people on, and you have expressed your opinions about certain movies involving little chickens. Um, I've observed more and more of the corporate side of Disney,
Mm-hmm.
and this comes both from learning about the films that I grew up with and also like where they are at this present moment, which is ugly. But that tension between art and commerce has always been in mind when
Yeah.
talking about this stuff or just watching something. But with this film specifically, I think back to when I was a 6-year-old boy back in 2005, going on a family trip to Walt Disney World for the second time. And as those isolated events took place, turns out the company itself was in shambles.
Oh yeah.
Like, the business executives' attention was being heaped onto the theme parks, TV, IPs, direct-to-video garbage, CGI animation. Like, everything about Disney that I was in awe of as a kid was basically being bastardized at the time.
Yeah.
And I just didn't understand it then because I was 6.
You were a child, so.
Yeah. And now that I
I
do,
was a
it's really
whopping
sad.
2 years old in 2005.
Yeah.
I had no fucking clue.
You were like, what this? What this chicken?
I didn't even know what the fuck Disney was.
Baby's first Disney.
I mean, like, I had gone to Disney World at that point
Yeah.
already. But like, fuck if I knew what was going on. I was 2.
Yeah. 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 So yes, in case our hints and references didn't give anything away, the film we are discussing is 2005's Chicken Little.
Yes.
Had you seen this film before?
Yeah. Quite a lot, actually. Because again, unlike you, I like this movie. um, I think, if I think back, the first time I watched it probably wasn't. It was probably like after it was released to DVD.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have seen it in theaters because again, 2. Um, but I think it was probably sometime after it released to DVD, and then I would have watched it with my parents at some point. And then I've kind of like watched it off and on throughout the years, just because I do like it. And of course, I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I also had access to the PC game.
Mm-hmm.
So I did play some of that as well.
Yeah. I will say the only non-DVD merchandise I ever purchased was the PS2 game. But yeah, otherwise I just didn't engage.
Yeah.
For me, Chicken Little was either the second or third Disney animated film that I saw in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was Lilo and Stitch, and I can't remember if I saw Brother Bear or not. I have a feeling I did, but
2 absolute ballers that are actually going to be mentioned later.
Mm. Fine, we'll save that for later.
Yeah, we'll save it.
In fact, I barely remember anything about watching Chicken Little in theaters. In fact, I remember going to see the Simpsons movie with our grandma better than I remember watching Chicken Little.
Chicken Little.
And clearly, she had not watched the series and assumes that any animated film is made specifically for children.
That's our grandma for you.
Yeah. Because I remember I literally repeated the line from that movie to her after we left the screening. I was like, somebody dropped the goddamn bomb.
Nah, it's so funny. I would pay to see her reaction.
Oh my god. It was wild. And then I remember watching it on the Disney Channel a few times. But as the years went by, it felt easy to avoid. And that's probably because of the management shift that began in 2006.
Yeah.
Even then, they acknowledged that this was a pile of crap. And they put it back in the vault, so to speak. But yeah. And then I've watched it like too many times in this 1 year. Also, if anyone else wants to get my hot takes on this movie, I did an episode with Frankie and Scott over at the Shoot the Flick podcast. Check that out if you want to hear my rants. But I'm gonna be generous and let Rayleigh take over.
Just let me talk a little bit. All right.
So yeah, let's get into the background on this movie.
Yeah. So, I guess we can start. I'll start with like crediting people. The director is Mark Dindal. Writers, from my research, I was only able to find like all of the writers from Disney's website because otherwise they were uncredited, except for like 3 or 4 of them. But there's Steve Bensich, I think, Mark Kennedy, Ron J. Friedman, Daniel Gerson, Ron Anderson, Sarah Perriott, Robert L. Baird, Josanne McGibbon, David Reynolds, and Sandra Tsing Loh. It's a lot of writers, which does not surprise me given how many iterations this film went through. I don't know if everyone's aware, but as I found, Chicken Little was indeed Disney's first like computer animated CGI film. Honestly, it and it actually wasn't always meant to be CGI, but it was early on in development that it was decided that it would be. As we've also discussed in other episodes, it was originally supposed to be based on the concept of Henny Penny, not Penny Henny, like I've said before. The initial idea was actually based off of Mark Dindal's relationship with his daughters, because he had 2 daughters at the time. And he wanted the story to revolve around like a father-daughter relationship. And it included like a summer camp, like a whole plot with like wolves in sheep's clothing, and like, there would be like a whole like mystery that they have to solve. And then, at the end, the father and daughter would have like a stronger relationship. And this version of the story was actually in development for a few years. And the number that I found was probably like 4-ish years. Because like they had storyboarding completely finished. And that is according to Penn Jillette, who had actually been cast as the lead like wolf villain. Until a certain character, saw how it was going. Michael Eisner. So when he got a look at how Chicken Little was going, and I'm sure we've said this before, he said that like boys won't watch a movie with like a girl protagonist, but girls will watch a movie with a boy protagonist or something to that effect.
Yep.
Yeah, basically he put immense pressure on the team to rework the story to have a boy protagonist, despite Dindal's like personal attachment to like having like the father-daughter relationship rather than a father-son, because he didn't have any sons, so he had no idea
Yeah.
like how
No
how to do
experience.
that. Yeah. At the same time that this change was occurring with the Chicken Little project, Thomas Schumacher, who, was basically with the animation studio all throughout the 90s, he left in the early 2000s, and in his place, he installed a certain David Stainton, I believe. I kept my dyslexia kept making me read it as Stanton. I kept ignoring the I completely.
Is
So
it
I was
bad if I
very
had the same
confused.
problem?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Stanton seems like a more normal last name than Stainton.
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because I'm confusing him with the director of Finding Nemo, Andrew Stanton.
Ah, yeah, yeah. But
But different guy.
yeah, different guy. But like, yeah. So when Stainton came into power within the studio, he made a lot of changes, like closing the Florida satellite studio, which of course is where Lilo and Stitch and Brother Bear were developed, actually, and also pushing to focus on computer animation. Like he was a major proponent of pushing for computer animation to be like the new norm within the Disney studio. And he buddied up to Eisner high key. So any edict that was like, pushed by Eisner, he basically supported. Oh, and actually, I just realized I forgot to add some quotes. And a lot of these quotes are from an interview with Collider that Dindal did. And then other quotes would be from like official statements by Eisner, or also, I'm sorry, there is one more person that I forgot to introduce in this story. I am so silly. Randy Fulmer.
Hmm.
He is the producer. Um, I do also have a few quotes from him from whenever he was looking back on the project. Going back to like, Dindal not understanding like, like the difference between like not knowing how to show the difference between like a father-daughter relationship and a father-son relationship. Fulmer actually like made a very interesting comparison. He said, quote, "There's Mark with a couple of daughters, and he as a director felt like, I totally understand little girls. I know this. It's like asking him to make a movie about African natives," unquote. I was like, that's a interesting comparison, but okay.
Hmm.
Um, oh, and then talking about the screening that they did before like the complete overhaul of the plot, because at this point it was still like the summer camp plot, but like they had just switched the gender of Chicken Little from girl to boy. This is what Fulmer had to say about it. Quote, "We had a screening for Eisner, and it was David Stainton's first day or second day. It's the Hollywood thing where he comes and he's overseeing the movie and he has nothing invested in it. So he has to burn it and start it over in his image. He was quite happy to describe it as a train wreck. The air just went out of my sails. It was not a train wreck. It had a lot of charm to it," unquote. So yeah, Stainton like hated it. Eisner also did not enjoy it, despite like how much Dindal, Fulmer, and like the rest of the team had already put into it. Um, and actually, Stainton told the New York Times um, that like he even told the New York Times that he hated it. Let's see. Okay, let me get back on track now that I've gotten those out of the way because I forget. Um, so even though like there was like this like big negative reaction from Stainton and Eisner, um, the team, I mean, like Schumacher, who I mentioned earlier, actually told Fulmer and Dindal that he thought that, you know, the asking of like the gender swap would like completely kill the movie. But the team behind the movie, like they multiple times they're actually described as stubborn. They stubbornly like held on to the movie, and they went back, completely scrapped everything, and they began to reconfigure it to hopefully, you know, finally get some kind of approval. Um, and they did have like a few like thrown out ideas from like the very beginning of the project. So they went back to those, and that's where they got the idea for like a misfit group of animals, and then also the inclusion of aliens. Um, and actually, from this turnaround, they actually cut development time in half. So it only took 2 years for them to, you know, get a new story going and like, you know, storyboarding, all of that.
Yep, that definitely
Um,
shows its messiness.
yeah. Because I mean, they were on a time crunch. Um, and then actually, since the movie was going to be computer animation, um, and train of thought, where'd she go? um, okay, right, because it was the movie was going to be computer animation. Um, there were quite a few people on staff in the studio who already knew how to do like computer animation, like they were trained for it. But there were still a lot of people who were still like, you know, traditional artists, as opposed to the computer. Um, and so what they actually ended up doing was they pulled a lot of the animators from Dinosaur, and they put them together with the classic animators on the team, and they actually cross trained each other on, you know, a traditional cartoonist, you know, showing the computer animator like how they would do stuff, and then the computer animator would turn around and show them how they would do it, you know, with the CG.
So it'd be
Um,
kind of like the traditional animator would be teaching them how to use things like the squash and stretch method, and
yeah,
then the CGI animators would be showing them how to make it look more realistic and keep the physics more accurate.
yeah. It's very much like they wanted to be able to like transfer the emotion that like traditional animation would be able to show into the CG animators, you know, so that they can, you know, kind of combine their talents and make it the best product that they possibly can.
Hmm.
Um, the the switch, even with the cross training, was not easy though, because there's a lot of reasons. I don't know if I want to get into all of them, but I mean, obviously there were still purists at the time who were very adamant that you know, CG has no place in the Disney studio. Um, you know, it shouldn't. We shouldn't be, you know, tainting the Disney brand with this stuff. Um, Let me see. Actually,
I'm wondering,
because
like,
there,
I don't know if the medium is what tainted it. I think it was the content they chose to focus on.
I'm just saying like what a lot of the arguments that I saw. Um,
But I'm willing to say that they are kind of missing the mark.
yeah. Um, there was actually a meeting in 2003 where um a, a Disney exec attempted to, you know, kind of have a seminar to try and like appease the animation purists. But yeah, that didn't do too good. I mean, it did help, you know, keep CG as like a mainstay in there. But like all the examples he used in this meeting never actually got made, which is really funny to me. Yeah, because like I mentioned that like he brought up American Dog, which was supposed to be from Lilo and Stitch's director Chris Sanders. Yeah, that was interesting. Um,
I believe they were also working on Rapunzel Unbraided at that time
yes, that they were also yes, that is also.
with fucking Kristen Chenoweth. Oh, I would have loved that.
But okay. Also around this same time, was Disney Pixar. The relations at this time between Disney and Pixar were bad, to put it simply. Pixar was releasing fucking hit after hit, and Disney was not. Um, you know, like, because I mean, like, literally the year before Chicken Little was supposed to come out did come out. In 2004, there was The Incredibles, which literally made more money than the last 8 Disney movies at the time combined.
Didn't it also win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature?
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, The Incredibles kind of scared Disney quite a bit. And I mean, also the relationship between Michael Eisner and Pixar chief executive Steve Jobs was falling apart. Especially since both of them, I mean, sorry, I should say neither of them had good things to say about each other. They were always fucking sniping at each other from the press.
Very hostile.
Very hostile. And of course, we can't forget DreamWorks. They were also doing very well with Shrek. And of course, we can't mention DreamWorks without mentioning Katzenberg, who also didn't have a great relationship with Eisner. So yeah, the pressure on Chicken Little was a lot. it the studio needed it to do well. But we'll get into that. Actually, 11 months before Chicken Little was due to hit theaters, they actually, like, Disney executives sprung on the team. They were like, "Hey, actually, we should make this 3D. we should make this a 3D movie." Like 11 months from the fucking release of the movie, dude.
That's not the craziest upset in Disney animation history that I've heard
It's
of.
not, but like it's insane.
It is.
Like to fully convert like a non 3D movie to a 3D movie is a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, yeah, it's insane. Let's see. Oh, and they actually got to help with like the 3D conversion because they literally like didn't have enough manpower. They actually got Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's effects house, to help them with that. And actually there was like kind of like a cute quote that Dindal had about that. Because he wanted the 3D to feel like the Viewmaster toys.
Hmm.
Do you know what those are?
Yes, I know what they are.
Yeah, like he, let's see, quote, when I was a kid and I was really taken with something, my first thought was, oh, I want to step into that, unquote. Like he really wanted it to like feel like you could be there. Did they succeed? Probably not, but
Nope.
he wanted it, he at least wanted an attempt. And I mean, they did the best they could with the technology they had at the time because again, this was 2005. Um, and then when the film actually hit theaters, Eisner had been replaced with Bob Iger. And talks with Pixar had actually resumed about like extending their contract with Disney. Um, and actually Chicken Little became a negotiation tool between the two companies.
What?
Yeah, based on how Chicken Little did at the box office, it would either bolster Disney's claim on Pixar or it would bolster Pixar's like reasons to leave. Because I mean, I think there's actually, let me look. Yes, actually, this is from the New York Times. Quote, if the movie is not well received by critics or moviegoers, something that looks no, don't worry about that. If the movie is not well received by critics or moviegoers, Mr. Jobs will gain leverage because Disney would be seen as needing Pixar to help create new stories to refresh its creative arsenal, unquote. Yeah, Chicken Little was actually very important. Um, in the negotiations between Disney and Pixar. In its opening weekend, it did pull 40 million in the box office, which is actually on par with The Lion King whenever it came out in 94.
Oh no.
However, it was ripped apart by critics. Absolutely shredded.
I didn't read any of them in preparation for this, but I'm sure they were delicious.
Do you want to hear some?
Sure.
Okay, so we got A.O. Scott from the New York Times.
Oh, I've heard he's a really great critic. I think he left his job a few years ago.
Quote, it has the distinction of being a terrible movie, a hectic, uninspired pastiche of catchphrases and cliches with very little wit, inspiration, or originality to bring its frantically moving images to genuine life, unquote.
Oh yeah.
And then we have Roger Ebert. He awarded it 2.5 stars. And he also gave it 2 thumbs down on his TV show, saying, quote, the movie did make me smile. It didn't make me laugh, and it didn't involve my emotions, or the higher regions of my intellect for that matter.
Yeah. He knows what's up.
Yeah. Um, actually, on the reviews, Dindal actually had a few things to say in his interview. Quote, the previews went really well, but the negative reviews hit me in a way that I wasn't really prepared for, unquote. Since, I mean, this wasn't the film that like he wanted, but it was still like a film that he had spent a lot of time on and he was very attached to.
Yeah. I just don't know how he couldn't have foreseen that, like, no matter how he put the puzzle pieces together, it would still come out like shit.
I mean, I can understand that. Like, I mean, as someone who's also like, I'm not an artist in like the like drawing way. I'm an artist in like the music way. And whenever you're making something, even if like you in like your mind, you know it's not the best, some part of you is still going to want people to like it.
Yeah, I mean, hell, we talked about that with Salvador Dali.
Yeah, and so I can understand, like, why he was like so sad
Yeah.
about it.
It's just that
Um
artists take their failures personally.
yeah. And it's just it's an artist thing. It's what happens.
Yeah.
Um and actually even with like the scathing reviews, I mean Chicken Little did okay at the box office. I mean it wasn't the fucking hit that they were hoping for, but it wasn't like a flop either. And actually Fulmer has another quote about it. Quote, "It certainly wasn't a box office smash, but it wasn't an embarrassment either." Unquote. Yeah, it ended up making more than $300 million worldwide.
It's partially my fault.
You did contribute to it.
I didn't know any better. Neither did my wonderful grandma.
Yeah. And actually, um, there was supposed to be a direct-to-video sequel,
Yes.
but it was canceled
The Ugly
soon
Duckling
after.
story.
Yes. And then afterwards, after the release of Chicken Little and after it was like kind of quietly forgotten, in January of 2006, Pixar was bought like outright by Disney. Ed Catmull and John Lasseter were installed as the new creative leaders in the animation studio. Stainton, fucking gone. um, Dindal and Fulmer both left. Dindal ended up going to work at Paramount. Unfortunately, I don't think he ever finished the projects that he was going to work on at Paramount.
Yeah.
And then Fulmer, I think he just left.
Yeah.
He actually says, quote, "At some point it dawns on you that your dream when you were looking out the window in 6th grade was not to attend a lot of boring meetings where people yell at each other," unquote. Yeah, he did not like the internal politics.
No. But I hate to think that that's what's most interesting to me about Disney at this time period.
Yeah.
Because aside from Lilo and Stitch, I don't think many of these films are giving.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm just gonna say, like, the way Dindal talks about Chicken Little is so fucking sad.
I know.
Like, he genuinely seems like he's still upset about it.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad.
At least we shared that opinion.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, this is about whenever he sees like old concept art from like the original version that he wanted. Quote, "I think, oh, that version. Then I'm reconnected with what I'm thinking at the time. And you're thinking how that version would have turned out. If we had stuck with that instead of this. If we had pushed Eisner and said it has to be a girl, it could have been killed," Dindal, he said. Uh, "With this, I wish I could see an alternate reality, what that would have been like. That's mostly it," end quote. And I'm like, damn. That's so sad.
Yeah. And you did send me some questions beforehand, and
Yes.
you asked if the original vision would have succeeded any more than this garbage pile.
Hmm.
I do think that Henny Penny could have been a fresh subject for a Disney film.
I do want to say it actually was called Chicken Little from very early on in development.
But then it went back to Henny Penny and then back to Chicken Little?
No, no, it was called Chicken Little like very early. Like even the girl was named Chicken Little. Yeah.
What year?
Um, let me see if I can find one. I mean, from the like father-daughter story,
Mm-hmm.
it was called Chicken Little. And Dindal refers to her as Chicken Little. Like the summer camp. And that would have been um so 2005, 2004, 2003, 2002, 2001, 2000. Uh,
Oh my god, would they have put this in pre-production the year I was born?
I think it was in pre-production in
Oh
'99.
my god.
Based on the math that I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because it was 2 years for Chicken Little as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 or 4 years for Chicken Little as it would have been. So yeah, 1999 or 2000.
Yeah, so it sounds like it would have been Henny Penny for like at least 3 years. And then maybe 1 year they would have spent trying to like keep the same story but change the gender, and then they were like, this just isn't working, period.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, like I said, Henny Penny was just like the basis, but Chicken Little was her name from a very early point. Like from the beginning, they changed her name to Chicken Little.
Okay.
And then after like 3 or 4 years of development, Eisner was like, "No, Chicken Little has to be a boy."
Mm-hmm.
And then that happened. That's the timeline that I'm seeing.
All right. I don't care enough to verify for either one of us. I was just wondering. But yeah, back to what I was saying.
Yeah, back to what you're saying.
Definitely like before Frozen, it would have been like unheard of for a Disney animated film to tackle issues like mental health and anxiety.
Dindal actually talks about that.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, quote, "That was the wisdom at the time until Frozen comes out and makes 1 billion."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do still feel like the emotional conflict between Henny, as I wrote it down, and her father would have been more common given the reaction to Ariel and Triton in The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And I believe the producers on that film, they once received a letter from a New Jersey state trooper expressing his estranged relationship with his daughter, and watching The Little Mermaid helped him reconcile with her.
Yeah.
So I think it could have been influential on like a small scale, but because it never had that artistic ambition, I still feel like it would have been awkward amongst even some of the Disney films from the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't sound like it had that oomph to it.
I mean, from how Dindal Fulmer and the team describes it, it seems like they thought it had a lot of like emotional oomph.
Well, yeah, I do still like, I do mean it like it would have emotional oomph. I just don't think it was like,
Yeah.
it was not going to be a visual spectacle.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
It definitely, I don't think it would have been based on like what the setting was, and like the story that they were going to tell.
Yeah.
But personally, I don't know if it would have succeeded any more than Chicken Little as we got it.
No.
I just think I think this movie was doomed from the start.
Yeah.
No matter which version they would have ended up going with, I think just the internal politics of the time and the external politics at the time, I just think it wouldn't have allowed for Chicken Little to succeed either way.
And also, like, how many sci-fi films did they put out?
A lot.
Because that was what? That was Dinosaur, Atlantis, Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
And now it feels like Chicken Little is the least appropriate to have an alien subplot in.
Yeah, and again, that came through with the rewrite.
Yeah, yeah.
The original didn't have aliens, so it probably would have been a little bit more well received. But yeah, the aliens was not needed.
Yeah. And plus, we also have to take into account that, like, Disney animation, even at that time, I think it was it was believed to be targeted at like really young children and girls. And
Yeah.
like CGI animation was considered more like marketable to boys.
Yeah, more for boys, yeah.
And I just feel like that I hate to think that it made Disney feel like their dick was too small because like because it's like because it was just such a gendered competition at the time, unreasonably so, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Stupidly so, in my opinion.
Yeah. But it's like it does feel like I never even thought of like the qualities of the Disney films that I liked even from that time as being like feminine attributes, like the use of color, the music, maybe some centering more on a female protagonist, musical theater.
Yeah, that's kind of gay.
Yeah, and I think that might have been like an undercurrent of some of the
Yeah, it could have been.
yeah, like and yet no, Pixar and DreamWorks are making the boys movies with the fart jokes and the ka-chow. And then they're like, "Oh, we need a movie like that. Please, Aliens." And Spice Girls.
And Spice Girls.
Yeah.
I guess we can move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Did studio involvement sink this feature, or would this have happened naturally? Kind of, it was a little bit answered
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, they definitely fucked this up on purpose.
yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I think naturally Chicken Little would not have succeeded, but also studio involvement absolutely killed this feature.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm trying to think
go ahead.
I'm trying to think of anything that I wrote down that you haven't already addressed.
Do you have any questions? I can see if I have the answer in my 4 pages of notes.
Well, really, I think it's just that you were on the right path, and you went like you focused specifically on the studio politics, the production, everything. Like honestly, like
That's
Chef
what I
Kiss.
felt like I should. I mean, that's what I felt like I should focus on the most.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And therefore, that left me room to think about the disparate relationship between Disney culture and 2000s American pop culture.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I will admit, what I have been doing instead of researching Chicken Little is looking at old videos and commercials for like various Disney merchandise, brands, the theme parks, things like that. And it's like a movie like Chicken Little or Brother Bear or Home on the Range especially. None of those movies could compare to the power of the Disney Princess brand.
Yeah.
And that's what they were really pushing at the time.
I mean, they slay, so.
They do slay. Oh, absolutely.
The princesses slay. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but the fact that like they were so profitable and yet it never dawned on them like, hey, we've made quite a few sci-fi movies. We could try and go back to the formula, but no.
Yeah, no.
I'd say that Disney animation in the 2000s was the demographic was dominated by boys.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I don't like it.
I think it was definitely to their detriment because they kept ignoring their strength.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's okay to be in the market niche that caters to girls. That's okay.
Or at least acknowledge that like adults can find artistic merit in these movies too.
Yeah. Like that is fine. You don't have to try and extend your market reach. You already have a huge fucking market reach.
You own the fucking
Disney.
world right now.
You own the world.
Oh, if Michael Eisner could see me now.
It's literally stop embarrassing yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And I say this comes from a place of love for Chicken Little, but that was definitely embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then once they did get back to that formula with the Princess and the Frog, I have a feeling that maybe they in contrast with Chicken Little, they were too risk avoidant.
Absolutely, I think.
Like, they played it safe in every way to the point where Tiana is basically flawless.
Yeah.
And she should have a few flaws. Like character flaws, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the next like 15 years have been spent like overcorrecting a lot of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at with this movie.
Yeah. I definitely I agree with a lot of your points. So and then one last question that I gave to you. Is Chicken Little to blame for the phasing out of traditional animation as opposed to computer animation?
Okay. This is the one that I actually wrote the most about. Because I found a lot of really interesting and kind of uplifting information.
Mm-hmm.
So, on its own, Chicken Little is not responsible for the death of hand-drawn animation. It was pretty much
Agreed.
dead before we got to Chicken Little.
Agreed.
Like really, even as early as Toy Story coming out in '95 and blowing Pocahontas out of the water.
As it should have.
Yes, absolutely.
Pocahontas was not good.
No, but that was definitely like a wake-up call to Disney
Mm-hmm.
from Pixar, being like, you're not the only animation studio in town that can make a good movie, and we can make it in a medium that mainstream audiences have not had much exposure to. And I hate to put it this way, but I think what really killed traditional animation was the Disney Renaissance.
The Disney Renaissance.
Because, as I said in our ranking episodes, 9 of the 10 films from that era are influenced by musical theater. They are coming-of-age stories. The majority were consistently recognized by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for their music.
Yep.
Rightfully so, but still. They found a winning formula and milked it for all it's worth, which for them turned out to be 10 years worth.
Yeah.
And I think people were catching on to the formula, and they just got tired of it. Even after how successful The Lion King turned out. But yeah, and then they had to devise this new strategy to stay relevant.
And it failed.
And it really failed, but the fact that the executives were so willing to ditch hand-drawn animation to maintain that relevance.
Mm-hmm.
And hundreds of these animators had been laid off between 2001 and 2003, and again in 2013.
Yeah.
But the good news is that as of 2022, a handful of remaining traditional Disney animators, like Eric Goldberg, who had animated the genie in Aladdin,
Yeah.
and he was also a co-director on Pocahontas, but we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about that.
He had initiated a hand-drawn animation course at the studio, and the apprentices from that course, their first big assignment were various characters in the Once Upon a Studio short that came out just this October, on Disney Plus at least. So they have newcomers like Robert Cox, Ella Khan, Tyler Pacana, and Austin Traylor, who will hopefully become like star players, like maybe on the level of the 9 Old Men. I don't know. But
We'll see.
I don't know about that because I don't think Disney is like turning its staff into star players these days.
Yeah.
Like after the 90s, I think they were just like, you work for us and that's it. You don't get to
Yeah.
you don't get to be Glenn Keane. You don't get to be Mark Davis. You don't get
You'll be lucky to get your name on the project.
Well, I mean, we're obligated to put your name in the credits, but like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's not going to be highlighted or anything.
no. Probably not. Unless you're involved with like big, really, really big character like Elsa or
Yeah.
Baymax or Maui.
Mm-hmm.
All the furry animals from Zootopia. But anyway, and also with the inception of Disney Plus, Goldberg has also remarked that he hopes that hand-drawn animation will achieve even more prominence and exposure now that they don't have to worry about like theatrical deadlines and stuff like that, or box office numbers. So I think my main take is that, as it is called now, the Walt Disney Animation Studios, it will have a great team of young artists bringing back that human touch. It's just a matter of what projects they get assigned to and the project's quality as a whole.
Yeah.
And Wish sounds like it'll be kind of disappointing.
Oh, the fucking villain song. Oh.
I didn't even listen to it. But I'm good.
Oh, the glimpse I heard. I was like, this isn't even like a fucking villain song. It's like, do you want me to say this or no? Do you want no like glimpses into it or?
I don't know if I'm even gonna go see it, so.
Okay, that's where we're at.
And I hate to do that because then they'll be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do movies with like Afro-Latino characters and stuff like that. And it's like, no, you just have to make you just have to make a quality movie. Like,
you just have to make a good movie. It's not that hard. Cause yeah, like the glimpse that I heard, it was more just like a list. Yeah. A list.
like a good old country song.
But like not even like a country song. Because at least country song, you get like cold beer, red truck. Like
at the very least they're setting a scene.
They're setting a scene. Cornfield. You know, like there's something there.
Long tan legs.
But like this song was just like listing off stuff that like the king does for the kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's giving off we don't talk about Bruno energy.
Oh, it's very Lin-Manuel Miranda. It is very Lin-Manuel Miranda. And not the good Lin-Manuel Miranda. No. Like the awful Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I mean, it didn't even have the fun animation of We Don't Talk About Bruno. Like, it was... Oh, it was so... Oh, I hated it so much. I was like, who fucking made this?
Yeah. I'll tell you who. It's Julia Michaels.
Yeah. I'm like...
I got issues. And you got them too.
Yeah. It's, yeah, I don't have the highest of hopes, honestly, at this point.
I think my worst fear has been realized with this movie in that Disney knows that music is a vital asset to its success, but now they're turning into, like, AI pop.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, they're fucking phoning it in on the most important part of their movie.
Yes!
And it's insane.
And it's your 100th anniversary.
For real.
I was going to save that rant for a later time, but think about that for a minute. Like, this year, it's the Disney 100, and it's like they've put out a lot of stuff, and yet there's only one 8-minute short film that I feel is sincere.
Disney 100, woo.
Woo. And then you forget the foundation was built on films like Chicken Little as well. Which I think brings us to our final question, unless you had any other...
No, I think I've wrapped up what I wanted to say.
All right. So how do you think Chicken Little... or REM Electric Boogaloo How do you think it influenced the way the Walt Disney Studios produces films to this day?
Well, I mean, it did kind of directly lead into the acquirement of Pixar,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously became a very lucrative thing for Disney. But also, I mean, I feel like it's hard to like give Chicken Little that much credit. If you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean it was such like a lukewarm received film. And a lot of its impact is better attributed to other things at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like all the politics and even like the whole like computer animation versus traditional animation. After Chicken Little, well, actually, what was directly after Chicken Little? Hold on.
Meet the Robinsons.
Meet the Robinson. Oh Jesus. Another sci-fi fucking movie.
Yep.
Oh my god, they didn't even learn that lesson.
And then they did Bolt.
And then they did Bolt. Oh my god.
I will say, I have been binging Little Wonders by Rob Thomas for weeks. It's such a beautiful song.
It is a good song. It's a great song, even.
Yep. Some might say great. However.
Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm looking at what Disney movies came out in the 2000s, and I'm like, wow, that's
In 2005, it was a lot of direct-to-video nonsense. And then there was Herbie Fully Loaded with Lindsay Lohan. There was The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
I believe The Pacifier was also that year. With Vin Diesel?
Ratatouille was also was in 2007.
Yeah.
Enchanted was 2007?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they were literally filming in Central Park while Chicken Little was in like its final stages of production.
That makes sense.
How does she know that you love her? How do you show her you love her? Holy shit. That's gonna be a happy episode.
Yeah. But okay, back to my train of thought. It got lost there for a minute.
Don't sing. Let's just walk. Can we walk? Let's just walk.
But okay. I don't know where I left off.
You were talking about the trend of sci-fi movies, and Disney didn't learn their lesson.
Yeah, Disney did not learn their lesson. 'Cause yeah, even in just fucking 2008, there was WALL-E. Yeah. So it's just such a mediocre movie, but I love it anyway.
Are you willing to say that it's a guilty pleasure?
I mean, I'm not guilty about it. I enjoy it.
But you know it's bad.
Oh yeah, I know it is, but I'm not like, I don't know, like I'm proud to say I like it. I think it's silly.
I guess it does depend on whether it's like you watch it for the fun of knowing that it's a failure versus unironically being like, no, this has a special place in my heart.
I mean, like, I do genuinely enjoy it. Like,
Okay.
I mean, I mentioned it in was it our ranking
Yes.
that I mentioned? Yeah. That like I do actually like understand like, and I like connect with a lot of the like anxiety that Chicken Little feels like throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
And also like the paranoia and stuff. But that's like a personal thing. We don't need to focus on that.
It is a bit of a projection.
Yeah, it's a projection. So like that's me personally.
Yeah.
I doubt that other people would get that out of it. But
And I mean, like, that's totally fair too. Like
yeah.
I even have my own shortcomings when it comes to Disney movies. Like I will stand proudly when I say that Snow White, the most conservative Disney princess, has been my childhood role model for years.
Which is totally fair.
Yeah.
That is like that's you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll have our chickens and our 14-year-old princess ladies.
That's a great way to wrap up this episode.
You have your chickens, I have my 14-year-old princess ladies.
Jeez. Perfect.
Handshake. But I didn't answer the question. So how do I think it influenced them? I would say that this is the Disney film that openly announces that it does not give a damn.
Yeah.
They rely so heavily on pop culture references, the fact that the relationship between Chicken Little and his father, Buck Cluck, who can fuck apparently, sorry, curse you, Marlena at Dream Sounds. I wouldn't have thought of that if it weren't for her. Anyway, but their relationship, it's not done in a poignant manner. It's not handled very well.
Again, because the director didn't.
He didn't know, and he kind of didn't care.
He didn't know
so.
how to do. Yeah, he didn't know how to do that kind of relationship. So.
No. Yeah. But then, as obviously, he also didn't care.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, he did care. But
he cared in as much as...
He still feels sad about
I know
how
he
the movie
does.
turned out.
I'm just saying that he did the best he could.
Yeah, I think he did the best he could.
The best he could, but...
Given the situation.
Yeah, but he was also obviously disappointed. And that disappointment
yes,
obviously carried over into the final film.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Yeah. But I'd say that... I mean, they're still making fucking pop culture references. They're still, like... How many Disney films in the last 15 to 20 years could you say are made for more than just children? I think that's the best question. I think Big Hero 6 is pretty mature.
Yeah, Big Hero 6. Let me see.
Frozen, I'm not too sure about.
Yeah.
Moana also, I think.
Moana could be for like more mature audiences.
And I don't mean like, like like serious shit. I just mean like it allows for like an emotional maturity and like
yeah,
things like that. And it's weird, like I kind of diss Frozen, but there is a lot of like psychological shit that goes down in that movie.
there is.
It's just that I think it's kind of got like a Hunchback of Notre Dame problem where it's like it's this really serious subject matter, but then it also gets balanced out by this talking snowman who keeps making like, existentialist
Which is my
jokes.
least favorite part of the movie.
Yes, and I don't like it. Oh look, I've been impaled. So yeah.
I mean, this is a Disney Pixar, but Luca.
Pixar Pixar. I don't know. I'll give it to Coco. That's for sure. Also, Zootopia. I feel like that was like an adult movie made for children.
I think so.
I think that's what rubs me the wrong way about it.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not really seeing much else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, Frozen 2 was a little bit more mature than like Frozen was.
Yeah.
But I mean, it still has the fucking talking snowman.
Yeah. I will admit I did get emotional for Do the Next Right Thing.
Yeah.
But with each rewatch, I don't know if it hits as hard.
Yeah. The more you watch it, the less it hits.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the last one was probably Moana.
Probably. But even then, like, still a kids movie.
Then where do we draw the line?
Yeah, I don't know.
I just think like like I'm trying to think of a movie that's comparable to Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
Because we didn't rank anything from the revival or the recession or even the post-Renaissance aside from Lilo and Stitch in our top 10.
That's true.
So I'm wondering if that's a quality that we pick up on that, and yet it's just not there in these movies.
Maybe, I don't know. That is interesting now that you point that out.
Like really, I think it is just Big Hero 6.
Yeah. Big Hero 6 and Moana.
Yeah. Well, it makes me feel even more dead inside about living today.
Gee. It's so cool.
Yeah. Everyone bring out your fidget spinners for some entertainment. Play What Does the Fox Say 50 plus times. I literally have colleagues that still talk about that song. Unironically.
That's so weird.
I know.
I haven't heard anyone like naturally bring it up since it fucking came out.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And I guess before we get on that topic, that concludes this chapter on Disney Reel to Reel. I will say you did a pretty damn good job with research.
Yay.
We didn't really acknowledge a lot of the technical stuff, but the politics are just so juicy that it's like...
I know, like, I felt like, I wanted to get into, like, some of the, like, technical stuff, but also I was like, okay, but the politics are probably more interesting.
They are. I will do you a solid. There's one that I mentioned on the Shoot the Flick episode that I'm going to bring back here because it actually does make me feel good. Mm-hmm. So the effects team, they obviously, like you said, they were new to computer-generated animation.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to figure out a method by which to, like, use lighting and color and textures in the specific way that they wanted it to look in this movie.
Yeah.
I think particularly of when Zach Braff, Joan Cusack, and who plays Rhonda Litter? The name escapes me.
What was the name again? Sorry.
Runt of the Litter, who is his voice actor.
Litter, Chicken Little. Let's see. Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn. When those three are on the spaceship, and it's all like neon greens and blues and stuff. Oh, also the crop circles that form later on. The influence that they had to bring to the construction of those scenes was actually Mary Blair's color styling for Alice in Wonderland.
Oh.
Yeah. like the way that lighting is used in that film as well. It's like, I think specifically of when Alice is walking through the Tulgey Wood, and like every time she goes down the path, the foreground gets darker and then the background gets lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's still like those colors that pop up along the left and right hand sides of the composition. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Yeah. So that's all well and good. It just makes me want to watch Alice in Wonderland instead.
For real. It always comes back to Alice in Wonderland.
It does. I thought it would keep coming back to Snow White, but I think I'm on Mars or something. And it makes sense because Alice was technically the first story that Walt wanted to adapt for a movie, so...
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It always comes back to Alice in
Wonderland. But speaking of which, what should our next episode be about?
You let me do Chicken Little, so...
Yeah. So I'm done. We're good.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm pretty open, honestly.
All right. There are things that I'm really into right now that I'm worried that I'll be fatigued with next week.
Okay.
Like the Disney Princess brand that has been like taking up so much of my time. It's so fascinating.
So let's put a pause on that. We'll do that later.
Yeah. But if I want to talk about something that makes me feel good in a way that Chicken Little doesn't, we talked about that Once Upon a Studio short. And
yes.
I think that would be a good subject for next week.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at that.
Yeah.
Just a crisp 9 minutes.
Yeah. Well, even then that's taken up by credits and dub credits and stuff. But I will tell you all right now that the first day that I started watching it, I watched it for 4 hours. Because I was trying to like pinpoint every character and like what they were animated to do and stuff like that. And I cried the entire time. No exaggeration. Like it started from like a brief trickle of tears to just like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. It was specifically the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god. Disney has not made me feel this way in years.
But yeah, we can definitely take a look at it for next week.
Oh, sounds awesome. I'm tearing up already. But until then, y'all can reach out to us at disneyreeltoreal@gmail.com or on Instagram at disreeltorealpodcast.
You can also reach us at disreeltorealofficial at Chicken Little fried my brain.
Yeah.
disreeltorealofficial.tumblr.com.
Wonderful. All right. So until then, just know that it's not the end of the world as we know it.
The sky is not falling.
The sky is not falling. Yet.
Yet.
And God bless Joan Cusack. All right. Have a magical day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Pardon me. Coming through. Excuse me. Yeah, right behind you. Excuse me. Can you double back, please?
Sure.
When you're this little, you gotta wish big. Come to the big movie event for all the latest home electronics. Buy any over $2.99 and get 2 free admissions to Disney's Chicken Little. Only in theaters. Wish big at Sears.